Welcome to part 2 of our conversation today, Rooted in Peace, Safety, and Self-Care. I'm here with Dr. Cherie Bridges-Patrick, and we will continue our conversation regarding self-care, safety, and attunement, to our nervous system, and all things, some things polyvagal, we'll put it that way. So the idea is one, like you said, to identify, experiment with what you're feeling. How is your body experiencing life at this time, right? And then, and what can we do with that? How do we learn how to settle in those spaces?
So let's do a practice.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Oh, I love practices. Hey, y'all, this is where we start to practice. This is the good therapy stuff right here. So come on, man.
This is real life stuff. Let's leave therapy alone. This is living stuff that we can use anytime, anywhere. All right.
I agree.
So chronological time tells us that we get 86,400 seconds every 24-hour period. 86,400, right?
Okay.
Chronological time tells us that we get 1,440 minutes in each 24-hour period. All right. So that's a lot of time, right? I hear people say, well, I don't have time to do this. I really don't. No. If you are living, you need to make some space in your already lived life, because these minor changes, these minor practices are going to be the things that over time will help recondition your nervous system, so that you can start living in a different kind of way, right? Because times is tough.
Yes, ma'am.
So we have 86,400 opportunities to pause. Just pause, right?
The sacred pause.
Be still. Be still and know.
Yeah.
Be still and know that I am God.
Yeah.
So let's just take a moment to pause.
Just to pause.
And then notice what happens in that pause. And even take a breath, an intentional breath, right? So I'm gonna tell you what's happening to me.
What's going
in that pause, it's like a quick reset of, oh, okay, wait a minute. Let me just chill a little bit more.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So that's what happened for me in that little bit of pause.
Yeah.
What about you?
Same thing. It was I could tell that I'm operating off of that blended state of red, right, and green, and that helped me to get back into more of a green state versus that blended, where I got that energy, it's like I'm on ready set, right? Right. So the pause helped me get back to ready.
Right. And what did that cost you?
Nothing. It cost me 10 seconds.
At the most, right?
At the most. So that intentional pause led me to the thought about a conversation that I had with the radio personality. I won't say the name. And a question was asked, about these times and what do we do? And I was suggesting pause, right? And the response was, well, we ain't got time for that.
Yeah.
We got to raise these kids. We got to do this. We got to do that. So when stuff come up, we just tuck it.
Bypass, override.
And bypass, and we keep rolling. And then you wonder why. We lead the world in heart disease, diabetes, all these things. And from a physiological standpoint, like okay, y'all, I'm a nerd, so let me be a nerd for a minute. So when we have that experience, whatever that external stimuli is, and this brain starts to process it in our limbic system, and now it's starting to send signals to our adrenal gland, and it starts to secrete that cortisol. If you do that over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, what ends up happening if you have weakened arteries that lead to your heart.
Right.
So imagine, and it all goes back to being activated.
Right.
You know, and so my question, and I didn't get the chance to ask it, was really like, well, how much time are you willing to spend to save your life?
Right. To save your life.
To save your life.
Right. And so if you can pause.
Just to pause. Yeah.
Multiple times a day.
That's right.
It costs you 10 seconds. Cost us 10 seconds.
That's it.
Right.
You know, and there's a certain, and you know, okay, I'll give credit to our sister Tricia Hershey. Because she said there's a certain seduction in settling, right? Being able to settle, you know, in order to settle, pause precedes to settle.
Ah, yeah.
You know, so it's very important, you know, and I know we're coming from it's a very kind of scientific, neuropsych kind of way, but I want you to understand that really that there is an intersection of faith and science, you know, that it exists, and that, you know, all right, case in point, and we got to experience this Sunday because she came and visited us at Alfred Street. There's one thing that we do at Alfred Street every Sunday as a congregation is we sing the Pass the Peace song. There's a sweet, sweet spirit, right? Not only are we singing communally, you know, which vibrates the vagus nerve, which does its thing, but there's a point when we're singing where we grab hands and then we begin to sway, right? And Sunday, when you and I noticed it, when we were doing it, it was like instant co-regulation, like instant connection. It was instant energy. It was like, wow, I wonder if everybody knew what was happening right now. And ancestrally, this is what we did.
Right, right.
So
to survive, yes.
To survive,
yes.
right?
And yeah.
You know, so the one thing in you know, I'll say it, the one thing I wish that we would do is like when the song was over, is that we had 10 seconds to pause, just to let all of that settle.
Let it marinate.
Let it marinate.
Yeah.
And just sit in it for a minute.
Yes, and that's how you recondition your nervous system.
Absolutely.
Right? Over
you
time,
reorient it.
You have to practice, right? In order for things to happen, you have to
Thank you
practice.
for saying that. Thank you for saying that, because, you know, and you've been in the field long enough to know this. Like a lot of times we have people that, and don't get me wrong, I know when the fire is hot, I want it
out. You
I
don't
want
want
it
to be
out
out of
too,
pain.
right? Or when I'm hurting, I want to be out of pain. But this right here, what we're discussing, this is the long game, y'all. This is not, you know, oh, I can instantly do this and then I'll be good. I'll never experience that again. I'd be lying to you. This requires practice. Anything you practice, though, you get better at.
And this really is a lifetime commitment to changing your life.
Absolutely.
Right. If you want to live differently, right, to be more present, so you can make better decisions for yourself and your family, right? This is a practice that will help you, or these are a series of practices that can help you get to that, so you don't have to live in constant fear. Right? We're not designed to live in constant fear, right? And just like we practice fear, we also practice joy.
Yes, we do.
Right?
Amen.
Joy is our natural state, except that we've been kind of conditioned away from that.
That's right.
But I do want to bring us to another practice.
Yes, ma'am.
A real quick sensory tour, right?
I love
and we're going
tours.
to engage we have 6 senses. And I don't know if y'all knew that, but we have 6 senses. We have sight, smell, sound, touching, taste, and interoception. Interoception is just a fancy word for knowing what is going on in one's internal state.
Yes.
Right? And so let's just take a moment, and I'm going to do the same thing while I walk us through this.
Okay.
And I'm going to walk the audience through this. So get comfortable wherever you're sitting, right? Just get comfortable. Let your feet, feel your feet on the ground. We call this grounding.
Grounding, that's right.
Sit your spine up.
That's
see
right.
what happens.
Elongate
that spine
right.
and see what kind of breath you can get
Yeah.
by doing that. And so just take a moment and look around the room. Notice 5 things that just stand out. 5 things that you can see, right? Just notice, make note of them, right? The colors, the textures, right? Just notice. Notice a few things that you can hear. Like there's some background noise, right? And if I'm not aware that I have that background noise going on, that can send off a signal, right? And I'm unconsciously in fear, so I'm operating out of fear, right? So now I'm bringing it to my awareness. This is background noise that's going on. Touch your skin, right? What does this glass feel like, right? You're getting in touch with your senses. What does your mouth feel like? My mouth is a little bit dry, so I might have some water in a second. Smell. Notice smells. These are all sensory gifts that we have that help us navigate the world. And so now let's go inside. Go inside of our skin. Anything that's inside your skin. And I'll walk us through. From the bottom of your feet, just notice what's happening. Feel your feet on the ground or in your shoes or in the grass. Just notice what's going on with your ankles, your toes. Wiggle your toes and see what happens. Your shins and your calves, just notice what is happening. We're getting in touch. We're becoming aware of our internal state through this process of interoception. Notice your joints. A lot of times there's some challenges with the joints and the muscles. I like to call them muscles. What's happening with your muscles, right? Your thighs, your hips, your bones. Just notice. If you want to close your eyes, just notice what's happening in your body, your stomach, your gut, the place of intuition.
There's a reason for that.
There's a reason for that, right?
Yeah.
Notice your heart, your lungs, right? How are you breathing? Is it shallow? Is it deep?
That's right.
From the belly?
That's right.
Notice your arms and your fingers. Right, again, touch your skin. You are alive. We are alive in this moment. Your neck, any tension there, constrictions, just notice. Your teeth, your jaw. A lot of people are holding tension in their jaws. Your eyes, your ears. Just notice your head, your scalp. And then pause in that experience. What did you learn in those few moments, in those few seconds that we took for this sensory tour? Make note of that. What do you need in this moment? What is your body asking for in this very moment?
That is, I'm still savoring in this sensory moment, but that is one of the, if I haven't suggested that grounding experience to 100 clients, I've suggested it to 1,000. Simply just to bring you back, to this, like you said, to the experience that you're having right now. Learning to practice that gaining that insight into a system that's constantly communicating with you. Right? Our bodies are constantly communicating with us.
Always. Even when we're asleep.
Even when we're asleep. Yeah. When we're hot, cold. Like, I was thinking this morning, like, I don't need my brain to tell me that I'm cold. My skin does that for me.
Right. Right.
My brain just gives it a word.
Yes. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So, you know, hoping and looking to press into some areas, some more experiential areas. Talk to me a little bit about. I'm sorry. Were you done with the?
So we were
'cause
just.
I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm done with that. So that's a practice, right?
Right.
And we were talking about we started that with embodiment, right? Embodied safety.
Yes.
And so we talked about embodiment, and we talked about safety from the perspective of a pastor who was, you know, just sharing this information. So can we touch on safety?
Yes.
Like, how are we looking at that? Right? What does that really mean?
Wow. What is safety? Yeah.
I'm glad you asked. So, as I am learning to define it, right, and this is how I see it, right. Safety is a cognitive, right,
Right.
subjective, which means it's my own experience. Nobody gets to define safety for me.
Right.
I have to determine that through my body, through my mind. Embodied experience or state of feeling safe. Now we can talk about all the apparatus, all the technologies, all the things that we have out there to make us safe: security guards, guns, gates, locks, videos, right? Security systems. All those things there perhaps provide some people a sense of safety. But I got to tell you, even with those things, until my body tells me I'm feeling safe,
Right.
I don't feel safe.
I ain't safe.
So that means
Right.
it's subjective. My body determines that for me through this beautifully, wonderfully made
That's
nervous
right.
system.
That's right.
And it's also an awareness, right, of the subtle sensory body-based feelings, right? And so that that internal awareness, right, that's a part of safety.
Absolutely.
Right? So because you have to be aware of what's going on.
Yes, ma'am. It is the, you know, I don't know. It's the first and last stop almost. You know, it's the first thing I need to turn to. Right. And sometimes it's the last thing I need to experience.
Okay.
So that, you know, as I turn to it and attune to it, you know, and start to practice, like you said, grounding with the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique, or, and we'll get into Vimbas and
Oh yeah.
you know, soul scribing, as Dr. Resma Minicum says. You know, it's everything you said about looking, you know, and resourcing safety within ourselves, because it's so much uncertainty that is around us. You know, that the job doesn't provide the sense of safety for me anymore. In some cases, the relationship doesn't, right? My health doesn't, my age doesn't, right? You know, my physical abilities don't provide that felt sense of safety for me anymore. So all these are important, you know, especially when they start to, again, you know, leave you in this state of agitation, that leave you in that red state of activation, where, you know, I'm restless, irritable, discontent, frustrated, you know, scared. You know, I realized through my own work with my own therapist that one of the biggest driving things for me was fear. And I never looked at it as fear. I just looked at it as I just wanted to do this. I wanted to get better here. I wanted to get better there. But it was the fear that drove everything. So a lot of the work that she and I have done has been on, you know, settling.
Okay.
Right. Grounding. You know, to pull me out of that activated state, to pull me out of red and allow me to rest in green. Right. So that's, you know, and again, y'all, all of this is we're talking about self-care, right? We're talking about it in a little different way as far as, you know, how you can, you know, have agency and resource the things that you need from within you. You know, as the scripture that was stated earlier, we are fearfully and wonderfully made, you know, and I believe that the science has caught up, you know, and given us the words to use. Yeah, I was thinking earlier about how I would go with my aunt to pick peas on my other aunt's farm in Mississippi, right? Snap peas, right? And then we had to bring them back to Memphis, and she'd sit me at that table with that bowl and, you know, in the newspaper, and I'd sit there and I'd be snapping peas, right? But in the midst of all of that, she started doing this. And she started humming, right? And I didn't know what it was. You know, I just saw the movement and the action, you know. Now I understand it to be, you know, soothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Settling. Regulating. And these are the things that our ancestors have done, and they've been passed along to us. And you are talking about the science, but let's keep in mind that, like you said, the science has finally caught up with what we already know. And what we've been practicing. Right. Right. So it's giving it some scientific language.
Right. It's giving us language. Yes.
Scientific language.
Scientific language.
We can create our own language around what this really is for us. And this is resilience, right? This is nervous system resilience. Yes. Right. Right. So.
That is it. I mean, I you know, wondered as I thought about it, you know, like we had been doing these things, you know, maybe subconsciously, I don't know, you know, but those things have been passed because we mimic what we see, you know, and those things have been passed along from generation to generation to generation to generation. And now we still do those things. I'm a swayer. And people get on me all the time. They say you won't stand still, and I'm like, nah, you don't know what I'm doing. So I'll just be rocking. And
did you always know that you were doing that?
I didn't always know. I just knew I was doing it.
Right. And it felt good. It helped you feel safer.
And it helped me to settle. You know, I don't like waiting in lines. Okay. So when I have to wait.
Right. So then instead of screaming and hollering.
Yeah, instead of screaming and hollering, I know now how to self-soothe. Okay. You know, I don't have to get on my phone. I don't have to, you know, get engaged in that. I can resource from within me the things that I need, you know, in those moments when I feel that agitation. Because of practice, I had practiced, you know, noticing it. And when I notice it, I can name it, and then I can attune to it. You know, and again, with practice, I can start to resource and create that felt sense of safety that we've been talking about. You know, what did you have next? Because I was gonna get into Vimbas, but
you was gonna go to Vimbas.
Yeah, I don't know. I may be jumping ahead of us, but.
So we talked. We started off with self-care.
Right.
We moved to embodied safety.
Right.
And now, and you tell me if this is where you want to head. We can talk about trauma.
My favorite.
Your favorite. Trauma, and then the impact that it has on us.
You know, one of the. You know, when I get clients that have experienced some horrific things in life, and they start to tell me the stories, you know, and imagine, you know, the light bulb that goes off when I say, well, trauma isn't necessarily what happened to you, it's what happened inside you.
Right, as a result of what happened
to you. As a result of what happened to you, right? That's the trauma, because that's the thing that stays with you. The event has come and gone. Right.
And you're reliving the event in order to
bingo
to clear it out, right?
Well, what happens is we as it happens in the body,
Trauma happens in the body.
Yes.
Trauma happens in the body. It
Trauma
stays
happens
in the body.
Okay.
And we'll talk about what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because some people think you have to be in a car accident or have to have something horrific happen to you. But so can we talk about like what trauma is, right? It is very complex, right? And so, you know, when we were at a conference last week, and one of the people there was listing all the different types of traumas. There's multiple forms of trauma.
Right.
But the kind of trauma that that is most prevalent, I think, and we're most unaware of, is this relational and complex trauma, right? The kind of trauma that occurs between human beings.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And as a result of oppressive systems. So we're all navigating the system that oppresses, that dominates us and constricts us. It constricts our nervous systems. It constricts our bodies. It constricts our minds, our relationships, the way we think, the way we talk, right? And so
it's those thwarted instincts.
Yes. So instincts are constricted and thwarted, and so we are not even able to utilize these wonderfully made bodies in the ways that they were designed, because we're living through these traumatic experiences.
Yeah. Well, there's you mentioned systemic trauma, right? And I think and
that's what's happening now.
Yeah, that's what's happening now.
Right.
That's what we are experiencing. It's the structured the structured systems and social norms that teach us collectively, you know, that some human beings have the inherent right to belong, e.g., the standard of
humanity.
Okay, I'm gonna say it.
Go ahead.
The standard in this country is
of humanity.
Is the white cisgender male. That's the standard. So men, white. What else do we put there? Heterosexual and wealthy, right? It leaves the rest of us with the sense of trying to prove our worth. Our dignity, you know, belonging, and constantly seeking safety amidst these inequitable societal norms and conditions. And our inheritance in all of this is the chronic disruption of connectedness.
Yes.
You know.
And so trauma happens in the body.
Right. And I'm gonna give Dr. Porges his credit for that, because
right.
that ain't me. That's Dr. Stephen
Absolutely.
Porges.
Yes.
But it's so true, you know, and what it does, and how trauma gets stuck in the body, and how it continues to perpetuate all those different things. In
our language,
yes.
in our interactions,
yes.
in our thinking,
yes.
right, and all of it, right? So
yes.
so trauma gets embedded,
right,
and it shows up in trauma, adaptive trauma reactions, right?
Yes.
Fight, flight, freeze, appease, collapse, just all kinds of ways.
Hey, explain a little. I mean, I remember the conversation we had, and how when we talked about appeasement, you know, and I gave the example of, you know, when I went to the store that day, and I saw the white woman coming out the store, and how immediately my gaze dropped, and I gave her a wide berth, right? And you said, well, because, you know, survival kicked in.
Survival, yeah.
It wasn't a conscious thought.
No. But you were trained, you were conditioned to give that.
But it had been conditioned in me.
Right, for your safety, for your survival, for your life.
For your life, you go that way.
Right.
You know,
But there was no threat.
But there was no threat. There was no threat at all. You know, so now it's through practice. Now, one, I don't drop my head. Two, I just walk and keep going where I'm going, and you know, it works itself out.
Right.
But with appeasement, you know, we talked about that having to deny instinctually what you want to do in order to survive, right?
Yeah.
And that engagement of all of those three states, where in some cases, and when I say states, I mean those colors, the green, the red, and the blue, you know, in order to survive. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
in order to survive.
Right. And so appeasement is really an engagement of all the nervous system states that we've shown. There's a slide that will be seen for that, or shown for that. But it comes from a place of survival,
Yes.
right? But it looks like you're really engaged. So you have to tap into the other person's nervous system,
Yes.
so that you can, it's people pleasing, so that you can
Yeah.
please them for your own safety,
Right.
right? And so now you're denying yourself and your own best interest in order to be in relationship or to survive.
To survive. Yeah. I hear a lot of that in some of the couples I work with.
I see a lot of that in my
Yeah.
own self. I
Yeah.
still see it, and
Yeah.
it's amazing the ways in which it shows up, because it's so deeply embedded.
It is,
Yeah.
you know, and it's something that, you know, through the practices that you shared earlier, through, you know, with some understanding, you know, and continuing to seek ways to navigate. And I think we said earlier, to be able to hold those things that cause us some discomfort, but still be able to navigate safely through, you know, this world that we exist in.
So I just want to share this. I'm looking at my notes. Adaptations to trauma. So when we're in survival states, we don't take on new information. We don't operate from the current time, right? So we're operating from the past.
Yes.
When
Yes.
trauma is when we're operating from that place, and so most of us are operating from the past.
Yes.
Right? When we can't be in the present,
Right.
your nervous system has been overridden, and now you're operating from the past, and so you don't have those that creative ability, right? That's gone, because now you're in this survival state.
Yeah.
And so then we can't, you know, our ability to imagine, to dream, to think clearly, to make progress, to rest.
Yeah.
I mean, those things are not available to us when we're in those states.
Absolutely.
And so then our systems are reorganized for danger when we're not
And
surviving.
it stays there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until we change it.
Until we change it. All right. Well, thank you so very much for you know, having this conversation. It was look, it was a long time in planning. But I am so grateful that you know, schedules aligned and time aligned, and you know, it was a divine appointment. I'll say that. Is there anything that you'd like to share with our Alfred Street family, with anyone in general before we depart?
I would say that practice, right? We've shared a few practices that you can engage in, but practice. In order for anything to change, we have to practice. We have to pause. We have to be able to see what is going on with our bodies. And so I encourage anyone who is ready to make that change, to really be able to do more than survive during these next few days, weeks, months, and years. Practice, and then community. Community. We've got to be engaging with community and developing safe relationships within our community.
All right. Well, very good. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
I want to thank you all for watching us. You know, I don't know. This has to lead to another conversation.
I hope it will.
I believe so. Once again, thank you for tuning in for another episode of Mental Health in the Sacred Sanctuary. I pray that you take her words and practice, because it really does practice. And I'll say it again, anything that we practice, we do get better at. So all that being said, again, thank you all for watching. My name is Jorge Wallace. This is Dr. Cherie Bridges Patrick, because I sometimes get it inverted, but it's okay. And again, God bless you all, and thank you for watching.